All right, folks, we are back on the Weight Concept presented by The Ring Magazine. And I'm finally done with my obligations for today. It is midnight, and I am here in my hotel room giving you guys my final predictions for Canelo versus Crawford. I know I've gone over why, if Canelo is to win, he could win. Why, if Crawford is to win, he could win. And it's been a crazy week. I've had 2 boxing shows to call. I was live earlier today interviewing everybody and it felt like their mother in the Radio Row of this fight week. I'll do another one tomorrow, so you guys will see that probably after this video comes out. But it's now time for me to give my final predictions and talk about this brand new sparring footage that is a little bit interesting that dropped between Canelo Alvarez and Boots Ennis. What does it all mean? Will it affect the fight? How do I see this thing going? It's time for the final breakdown of Canelo versus Crawford. Who wins and why? Let's go. But before we do, let's take a quick second to talk about how I got these guns popping. And it's because of the sponsor of today's video, First Form. Folks, I use First Form's Formula 1 quick digesting whey isolate protein after every single one of my workouts. And I promise you guys, I've been feeling better than I have in a very long time. You guys know that I'm someone that continues to get hurt, continues to work out, eat not great, and then don't know why I don't see the results I want. And finally, slowly but surely, I'm seeing those results, and I think I have First Form to thank for that. Number one, the supplementation you get from not just this First Form Formula 1, but the First Form Energy 1 bars or the First Form OptiGreens 50. They all coalesce into a well-balanced supplementation program for me, for you guys to feel your best and keep yourself in the best shape possible by continuing to be able to work out and reap the rewards from the work you're putting in. All products at First Form are NSF certified. These are products looked over, carefully cultivated for you guys to have the best options in your post-workout recovery, in your supplementation. You guys can take advantage now by clicking the link in the description. And when you do, if you spend $100 or more, you're going to get free shipping. And also, if you don't like the product for whatever reason, and I promise you, you're going to like the product, but if you didn't, send it back within the first 30 days and First Form will refund you 110% of what you spent. So folks, once again, click the link in the description. You spend $100, you're going to get that free shipping. Whether it's Formula 1 or the product of your choice, First Form is looking out for you and doing so by giving you the best supplementation on the planet. Thank you to First Form for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to the breakdown. All right, so Canelo Crawford. I think I've gone over this in my head about 150 times in the last 7 days. The last week of this fight has made me rethink, re-question everything I thought I knew about this fight, looking at the difference in size, or I should say the lack of difference in size between Canelo and Crawford, looking at how Canelo has treated this camp, bringing in Jerron Boots Ennis, getting a little bit more lean. If you saw at the press conference face-off today, we're going to take a look. Look how lean he is. Compared to what I thought he may look like coming into this fight, he looks a lot more lean down and slim, trim, as Crawford looks a lot bigger, muscle-bound, stronger. There's a lot of interesting things to go over here, and I think a lot of things that could potentially affect the fight. So let's get into it. Number one, again, I've stated strategy-wise what I think can and will happen here. I think Terence Crawford is going to get out to an early start on Canelo Alvarez. I think he's going to start fast. I think he's going to try to gain respect and push Canelo Alvarez back. Push him, not let him get comfortable, try to break his rhythm, hit him with counter shots, keep center of the ring, and not be bullied in that ring. And this is what I call the gift and the curse. And by the way, sorry, I just realized I have Teofimo Lopez's hat still. So we're going to rock that for the rest of this. Actually, it does look a little goofy on me, doesn't it? It does look a little goofy on me. Now, while that's happening, I still think Canelo can have success. I think he can land those pot shots, so big punches, if he sets it up behind his jab. I do believe we're going to see Canelo do the same thing. He's not taking backward steps. I don't see Canelo trying to lean on the ropes like you may have saw in the Dimitri Bivol fight or at points in the Triple G fight. I don't think that's a winning strategy, even if he's not getting off with shots early, if he's not matching volume for volume with Terence Crawford. I feel he's going to try to also plant his feet and not go backward and try to keep that forward aggression. Just think he may be overwhelmed early on with the volume of Crawford, but not necessarily the damage of Crawford. I think Canelo is better defensively than people are giving him credit for. While Crawford is great in the pocket defensively, Canelo is a master in the pocket defensively. I'd argue between the two of them, the defensive work will be better done by Canelo. Crawford, I think, is a bit more hittable Canelo can get hit, yes, but he turns with a lot of punches. He takes punches glancing, and you rarely see Canelo get cut up. You rarely see him get bruised. You rarely see him with a mouse under his eye, and he's really never been hurt. You can say maybe once he got hurt by Cotto's brother years ago, like 10, 12 years ago. More than that. It was damn near 20 years ago, it felt like. The point being, I think Canelo's defense will keep him in the fight, even while maybe losing rounds early. And the gift and the curse of the style I think that Terence Crawford has to fight here is that it will be successful, but it may be his inevitable demise. Now listen to what I'm saying. Terence Crawford, I do not think will fight anywhere near a Williams Skull that's going to be back foot, trying to circle and staying on the very far outside. I talked to some people today that said this is Antonio Tarver speaking. This is some of the best boxing minds in the game speaking. I think even Caleb Plant told me this today in our interview. He needs to be either all the way in, meaning out of the mid-range and inside fighting with Canelo, that he can have more success on the very close inside, or at jab range where Terence Crawford has a reach advantage. These two things I agree with. I just don't know how long he can keep at the longest range, and if he is on the inside fighting, how effective he can be. When Caleb Plant talked about it, he is correct in that Caleb Plant's jab was very effective against Canelo for a period of time until Canelo found the timing and the rhythm of it and started to break Caleb down. This happens to a lot of fighters at 168 pounds, regardless of the maybe fall off in performance of Canelo. He's found ways to hurt guys and in some cases put them away, even when going up in weight, but as of late, not been able to put them away and kind of coast to victory. Now, I think Terence Crawford, for all the people saying, you know, I heard Mike Coppinger say he may, because he's so competitive, look for a way to not get knocked out. I completely disagree. I think Terence Crawford is so competitive that even in moments where he is playing the game and taking the risk and being in the pocket, which I think is where he will be, more so than even at range, I think he'll want to be in the pocket with Canelo, which is the danger zone, but it's also the effective zone. The counter striking in the pocket can be where Terence Crawford racks rounds up, and I think he does need to rack rounds up. So fighting that style means you're willing to play the game. You're willing to take the risk with Canelo Alvarez. I'm not trying to make Canelo's power sound like more than it is, but everybody that's fought him says he hits fucking hard. Dimitri Bivol, who beat him, said he hit hard, harder than Artur Beterbiev hit, that he commits more to his punches. You don't have to ask the Caleb Plants, the Billy Joe Saunders, even the guys like John Ryder, whose face was completely jacked up. Jaime Munguia, who, yeah, Canelo didn't stop, but hurt him badly. And if he does crack you, the fight can change. And most fighters take that punch and decide, I don't want to get hit with another one like that, so let me stop doing that, stop going into range. I'm going to back up. I'm going to try to manage the rest of this fight on my jab and not get dropped again or potentially lose the fight by getting knocked out. Terence Crawford, I think, is, and I don't even want to call it prideful, I think he is too competitive to do that. So if, and it's an if, I'm not saying this is exactly how it goes, but if he is in the pocket with Canelo Alvarez, the chances he has of getting hurt or knocked out greatly and exponentially increases to me. And that's also where I think Crawford needs to be. So that's where the dilemma comes in. Can you fight in the pocket with Canelo and not get hurt? And I know that we have been talking about this. Can he handle Canelo's power versus can Canelo box with Terence? That's been the talk. Can Terence Crawford be at 168 and handle the weight difference or handle the bigger man? And you look at these pictures and Terence is bigger than Canelo, height-wise, reach-wise, but Canelo's obviously more dense. You see that, you know, he is built more stocky. And between the two of them, I think Canelo has far more power and snap in his punches. I think Terence has great timing, and it doesn't take him a long time to get his timing. That's something to keep an eye on. His timing is pretty good from the start of the fight, whereas Canelo is a little bit of a slower starter. But all that I'm saying to tell you that I think Terence Crawford fighting in the pocket, being as aggressive as I think he needs to be, will ultimately be, in my opinion, why this fight turns against him. And yes, I am going to include the factors that we have to, which is the weight. And it's not because Canelo is bigger. It is because this is unfound territory for Terence Crawford. How big he is going to be in that ring, how his body adjusts to fighting that big in an actual fight, not in sparring, not against someone with 16-ounce gloves on, not with a weight vest on. How do you fight in 10 ounces versus Canelo Alvarez if he's walking forward and he's taking your punches and it's not hurting him to the degree it's hurt other guys in the gym or etc.? And again, I could be completely wrong about that. Terence Crawford could bring power up from 154 that he didn't have versus Madrimov, or it didn't affect Madrimov and hurt Canelo. Maybe. I don't see that happening, but maybe. Or Terence is still just as slick, just as fast, and is able to outbox Canelo by hitting him from the outside or being glued to him on the inside, landing those big body shots and getting out of the way of the damage coming back. That also could be true. But if this is a tit for tat fight, if he can't interrupt Canelo's rhythm, and Canelo is starting to throw more volume, which is something I'm interested to see. If Canelo comes out and is a bit more aggressive and a bit more volume heavy with his striking, looking to set things up with his jab, then can things turn? And yes, we see Terence Crawford having a great jab out of the southpaw stance. Canelo has struggled with southpaws before, but I told you this in a video a couple of days ago. Terence Crawford is susceptible to the overhand. He is susceptible to getting cracked with that right hand. Or if he's moving away from the right hand, Canelo's got a nasty lead hook to the body and upstairs. And I'm telling you, if Terence does stay in the pocket for just a little too long, and Canelo, who's also a great counterpuncher, is looking for his own counterpunch, or is looking to land damage with his right hand and slips out, bang, right hand, left hook, or that uppercut left hook, or whatever Canelo wants to throw on that counter, it could be bad. So that's what I see happening in the mid-fight, where Terence is maybe up 3 rounds to 2. 4 rounds to 2 even. Going into round number 7, that's where I see the change. What happens at the midpoint of the fight? Canelo has not been the greatest in the back half of fights at 168 pounds. He hasn't surged on the bigger guys, right? He hasn't been able to take those last rounds against a Berlanga or a Munguia or a John Ryder or even a Charlo and really separate himself and finish the job, but he hasn't really had to either. And I think this fight he will have to. I think he will have to fight with urgency in the mid to later part of the fight because of how well I think Terence will do early. Again, if it's still in there for Canelo at 35, and I know it's a big if, but Terence is 37, and he still has had some of the greatest performances in the back half of his career. But if Canelo can dial the clock back a little bit, show us a bit of that Billy Joe Saunders puzzle being figured out. Show us a bit of that Caleb Plant puzzle being figured out. Show us a bit of that Kovalev performance. Even the first part of the Charlo fight, that's going to be a monster for Crawford to deal with. And let's not forget that the time off that Crawford takes in between fights, he has somehow still been able to remain sharp throughout his career in the last 6 years, fighting once a year, just one fight, a year off, one fight, a year off. And that's surprising to me, but I did feel it like it caught up to him in the Madrimov fight. I felt like that time off caught up to him and his timing and his ability to really do the things that makes Terence Crawford so good. Attack on the counter punching, having successful combination, making you miss successful combination, stinging with that jab, going to the body, back upstairs. There's things that Terence just didn't do in that fight, and he was tagged with a lot of right hands from Madrimov. Again, Madrimov may be an awkward fighter. Maybe it was the weight. Maybe it was lack of motivation. I'm not sure. Canelo's last performance, we had the same question. So someone's going to have to prove us right or wrong in this. And before I get to that final pick, which I think you know where I'm leaning, let's take a look at some sparring footage, which is not really any footage, but Jerron Boots Ennis, who was brought into camp for Canelo to spar coming into this fight, and Matchroom Boxing, who is his promoter, dropped this footage today of Boots and Canelo, sparring. Again, not a lot is shown here, but you hear some things. There are things you can read into. I actually don't like, by the way, that this was dropped today. I don't know if Canelo has a problem with it, but it is weird to me that you would drop sparring a day or two before the fight. And if there was anything potentially that an opponent could take away or see into footage, or even, a moment, a second in which they could use it for the fight, I feel like that would be a terrible, terrible mistake. And I don't know, I'm assuming Canelo allowed the Boots team and Matchroom to drop this, but I did find it weird that they dropped it today and not like the day of the fight or the day after the fight or something like that. But, I guess views are views, but that was a weird move to me.
It's fun, sparring Canelo. Trying to pick his brain. He got I think he like 70 fights in. Turned pro at 15, so I was picking his brain, having fun, and sharpening my tools. That's about it.
So you see there a clip of Boots Ennis going lead hand uppercut, sliding around and away from the power hand of Canelo. Again, I'm just trying to take bits and pieces. Boots obviously fighting southpaw here to get a look for Terence Crawford, fighting southpaw and also getting his own work in.
That's about it.
It's so hard to know that combination. They did a good job of trying not to show too much.
Tools, that's about it,
But you see Canelo step inside, and it looks like he might have gone right hand hook. The way he's finishing here, it looks like he's twisting on that lead leg. So 2-3, ha-ha. Or it could have been, double hook, ha-ha. I don't know if jab hook would have made that quick of a sound. It had to have been a right hand left hook. Just the way he's leaning in and twisting and got all that weight on his front foot, it wouldn't make sense for him to be weight on his front foot this way, throwing the right hand. So it must have been leading with the right hand again at the southpaw here. Even though Boots is on the ropes, leading with the right hand, because in an orthodox southpaw matchup, you want to lead with your right hand, just like a southpaw wants to lead with his left hand. In some of those exchanges, they're the most dangerous punches because they are on the center line when you have that reversed stance against each other. Something to keep an eye on. Canelo in this fight and Bud Crawford in this fight throwing lead backhands, right? Instead of going jab right hand, boom, boom, 2 1s, right? Or again, hook right hand is usually, against that southpaw, it may be more effective. Boom, bang, hook over the top. Very interesting. Boots is done. Looks like Boots did a couple. I'm not sure how many rounds Boots and Canelo did, but that looked like Canelo was about to go with a second sparring partner as well. So no, there's not a ton to take away from that sparring footage. Both guys look like they got good work. Boots was pretty happy with what he did. Canelo seemed like he was happy with what he did. People are talking about insiders in camp, about what happened, what didn't happen. I'm not exactly sure. I don't even know how many times they sparred. Point is, the only thing I could take away from it was Boots Ennis is probably the best look. He's not Terence Crawford, but he's the best look you could potentially give for somebody that is a dominant switch hitter in boxing, someone that can box out of the orthodox and southpaw stance. And he's a great counterpuncher as well. He's an offensive, aggressive counterpuncher like Terence Crawford is. And we've talked about that spar before and yada yada. Point is, what am I predicting? Like I said, I think this fight will start with Terence Crawford being very successful in the early rounds, trying to push a pace and a pressure on Canelo to try to break Canelo's rhythm, to try to push him back, to try to make Canelo uncomfortable, make him reset, and turn down his volume a bit, right? Make Canelo throw one at a time, not get going. I think that can work as long as you are making him miss, as long as he is not hitting you back with big, powerful punches. The more Canelo is answering, the less effective this becomes. Terence could slow down. He could start to feel the effect of the power Canelo's bringing, of the weight he's not used to, of the rounds at the weight he's not used to. And as the fight goes longer, I do think Canelo is going to be accurate. I think Canelo's always efficient. The big question I have is his defense going to show up this time around? Or is he just going to be, I'm going to go first, I'm going to walk forward, I'm going to have my high guard up, I'm not even going to try to make you miss, I'm just going to walk through everything you have and then try to hit you once, walk you down. If this becomes one of those fights, I think Canelo could be in trouble. But I think that success early on for Terence Crawford could be one of the things that leads to Canelo actually winning. Whether it's, again, Terence not being used to the weight, maybe a little bit more tired than he's used to in those mid to late rounds, or Canelo absorbing some of those punches, being able to throw back, hurt Terence Crawford with some big-time punches in the mid-rounds, to the body, upstairs, to the shoulders, arms. And as Canelo could even be down on the cards, right, in a fight that I think he starts to try to gain momentum back in the back half from, I think Canelo can stop Terence Crawford in this fight. I think he will stop Terence Crawford in this fight. I'm going to say Canelo wins this fight in the 9th or 10th round by stoppage. That's what I think. Canelo, after potentially being down on the cards or being even on the cards, starts to wear Terence Crawford down. And I don't think that the biggest factor is just weight, but it is a major factor. Weight classes exist for a reason. Kellerman said it earlier this week, a great big man beats a great little man if the skill sets are somewhat similar. Even if the great little man may be a bit more well-rounded, even if the great little man maybe is a better total all-around boxer, the skill difference is negligible here, in my opinion. I think when Canelo brings his entire bag, offense and defense, head movement, slip and counter puncher, if we get jab Canelo, it's going to be a hard night for Terence Crawford. Not to say it won't be for Canelo either. If Terence Crawford comes out and looks like he did against Errol Spence, then this could be Crawford's night. And if he is to win this, I think it would be by decision, but I'm sticking with Canelo in a late stoppage after wearing Terence down, after Terence being so competitive that he is unwilling to stop whatever his game plan is, or whether it's plan B or C, he can't get to those because Terence has never lost at anything. How does he react if the fight starts tipping in the balance? Does he turn his level up, which I think is a bad idea, or does he try to get to the outside, stay on his jab, and win rounds going away like that? I would say that's a better strategy. I just think Terence Crawford is too much of a dog. From everything you hear from guys like Sean Porter, Tim Bradley, those guys, they say he raises his level. And I feel like if he does that and raises intensity, it will work for a bit, but ultimately it will lead to his downfall. And Canelo Alvarez wins this fight, in my opinion, by TKO, stoppage, knockout, whatever way it goes. I think it'll be a stoppage. But that's my final pick, guys. That's the last piece of content you will see until my live stream on Saturday. I am going live for the entire card. I don't know where I'll be. It'll probably be this hotel room. It may be a different studio, but I unfortunately won't be at the event for this live stream. I know I really wanted to, but like I said, I control what I control. So we're going to go live anyway. I want to see you guys there. Hopefully we can get some guests on the stream as well. If not, it'll be solo dolo and we'll rock it out. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting on the Dana White interview earlier today, on all the stuff we've done. We're just getting started. But I'll ask the question as we leave out. What happens this Saturday as you watch this video, 1 day away, in the main event of the fight of the year, one of the most important fights, in my opinion, in boxing, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford? Who wins and why? I think it's Canelo by stoppage, but I don't have those answers. Comment section, let me know down below. And tomorrow, from Allegiant Stadium in the main event, Canelo Crawford, guess we'll find out.